Welcome to the Be Happy Now show. Flex your soul connection muscle and be your inner guide to fulfillment and purpose. I'm Claudia-Sam. If you know that you're here for a bigger reason, this is the place to be. Together, we ditch the self-care guilt and quit the go with less fear and more trust. Tune in to living life in alignment with your full potential. The Be Happy Now show starts now. Happy New Year. This is so fun because in today's episode of the Be Happy Now show, you will be kind of sitting in a conversation that I had with two of my friends who are manifestation mentors and speakers at this month's intention setting mini retreat that I'm hosting. It is January 24th. If you are in the Americas or Europe, and if you are in the Southern Hemisphere in New Zealand, then it's on January 25th. And both of these amazing women have powerful stories and insight when it comes to setting intentions. With my friend Nicole Tsong, who is a self-worth coach, she really brings intention every day within her personal life, within her coaching, with her clients, and also within her romantic relationship. And so she's going to share with you how that works for her, what happens when, intentions don't feel aligned anymore, even if she has set them at the beginning of the week, when it feels like, it's no longer a thing. Like, does she just drop the intention, or how does she shift the intention so that it works for her again? And Nicole has an intuition quiz for you as well as a gift, and you will find the link to that in the show notes. And then you will sit in a conversation with my friend Allison Orlovsky, who is a relationship coach. She's like the relationship architect, and she'll share with you an amazing story of recently what happened within her relationship, and how, as someone who had 13 years of deep intuitive soul work to get to find what she really wants, because I don't want to give away what's happening or what occurred within Allison's life right now, but she did have to learn through some relationships that ended up not working out. So you get to learn from her, and you also get a gift from Allison. All the links are in the show notes. Enjoy these conversations. And of course, if you want to join us in the intention setting mini retreat, you actually get a really good deal when you bring a friend. In the mini retreat, you will not only get to hang out with Nicole and Allison, you'll also get to hang out with two other manifestation mentors, my friend Betty and my friend Nicolette. All four of these women and speakers, you'll hear talk, and you'll get to workshop with them. So in self-worth, around your career, within your relationships, also within your abundance and money mindset, and within your physical well-being, eating real to heal. I'm really happy to bring you this event, this collaborative, co-creative event, because as your soul connection coach, you get to set intentions around your soul connection, really choosing the heart and the intuitive voice over the head voice of worry and fear. And we get to work on spiritual alignment so that you can feel like you are on track within who you're meant to be. And I'm not the only one with whom you can set intentions. So I gathered with these four other manifestation mentors so that you could walk away with tangible action steps and intentions in multiple areas of your life. So I hope you will join us. Go to claudiasamsoulcoaching.com/mini event, and all the details will be there for you to grab your seat, solo or with a friend. Okay, enjoy these conversations. Hi, friend.
Hello. So nice to see you.
I'm so excited to have my beautiful friend Nicole Tsong here on the Be Happy Now show. We're going to have a conversation about intention setting, and Nicole's going to share with us how she uses it in her daily life. Nicole is the host of the School of Self-Worth podcast, and she's a best-selling author. She helps Asian American women leaders release perfectionism, become fluent in the language of intuition, and step into their purposeful life. And Nicole reached hundreds of thousands of readers as the former Fit for Life columnist for the Seattle Times. She's an award-winning journalist, and for 3 years, she taught yoga at the White House Easter egg roll during the Obama administration. She's been featured on nationally syndicated show The List, on Good Morning Washington and Washington, D.C., on Your California Life in Sacramento, and featured multiple times on New Day Northwest. And she lives in Seattle, and her and I have been friends for a few years already, and we've been communicating on Voxer, and we've developed this business friendship that is so fun because it's almost like we have each other in each other's pockets when we send each other voice messages. So I'm so stoked to have Nicole be one of the manifestation mentors and key speakers at the Intention Setting mini retreat this month. Her talk will be about the #1 block to elevated self-worth without the guilt in your career. Welcome to the Be Happy Now show, Nicole.
Claudia-Sam, it's such a joy to be here with you. And I've been saying I want her to send sunshine to dark and gloomy January in Seattle because we could use a little bit of sunshine here.
Oh, I know we have such different weather. It's kind of cool, actually.
It is cool.
Tell us about how you use intentions in your life and how you sustain setting intentions.
Such a beautiful question. I would say I started setting intentions when I was doing a lot of yoga, and that was like my practice where I really learned to do it. And then now in my life, I do it more from the place of like every Monday with my clients, we set intentions for the week. And I would say that I really find powerful because it gives me a way to sustain it throughout the week. And I don't have to be stuck with like the same intention if it shifts week to week for myself. And then I would say personally, I also do it in my own yoga practices. Sometimes a teacher asks for it, sometimes they don't, but I go like 2, 3 times a week. And it just really grounds me for like, okay, what do I want right now? To me, an intention is that question of what is it I really want right now for myself? And it helps me then stay in that energy.
Yeah, thank you. And I like what you said about, if it shifts, if the intention shifts, because I mean, we're not robots and things happen and we can choose to go, hey, I actually want to shift my intention. And so what happens when that happens? Do you go back to the same Monday intention setting, or do you have a process for that? Or do you just decide to choose it and change it?
Well, I feel like sometimes too, my intention changes for the circumstances. So for me, often setting an intention is around work. Like, what kind of mindset do I want to be in? I'm serving my clients. And so, what kind of space do I want to be in for that? But then I also can find sometimes like my husband and I have like a weekly check in appreciation with each other. And so, that intention is going to be different with him because we're just in our personal lives and like in our relationship, there's a different intention. And then when I'm in a yoga practice and I'm there to move my body, it has nothing to do with anybody else. It's just like, what is my intention for myself? And so I think sometimes we forget that we get stuck in the idea that intention is only one way, but it actually morphs depending on the circumstance.
Thank you. So you did mention for Mondays with your clients in your masterminds and in your clear calling containers. Tell us about how setting intentions works when it comes to self-worth and feeling good in a career that actually aligns with your clear calling.
Yeah, such a good question. I find for so many of us that sometimes we don't feel even worthy of the intention that we set. So that can kind of derail it right away. We're like, oh, I set the intention for full expression. And then boom, like the second later, you're like, how could I be expressed? I don't know what my expression, right? Like you all of a sudden have tanked on what your intention is. And so when you're really looking at your self-worth first and saying, okay, and your intention could be related to that self-worth. I find for many of my clients, it's actually really helpful to be like, okay, like how do I set an intention for being an expression of self-worth this week? That's really helpful for people. But I find if your self-worth isn't fully intact, it's really challenging to feel like you can even have the intention that you want. And when we're setting intentions, what we are looking to do is to raise, and to me, I think of it like energy. Is it at a low level or at a high level? And if it's feeling kind of low, my intention can help it start to rise up and lift up. But if I don't really believe it or I don't feel it completely, then it just tanks back down to where I started. And then it doesn't really do what it's supposed to be doing.
I resonate with that so much. I often hear I can see it in the clients, in their eyes and their energy when they're setting an intention, and it kind of feels like a lie because they're not there in the belief yet.
Mhm.
So it's interesting, right? To be able to name that there's a piece of, I don't know that I can really have that, but I'm going to set this intention because I think I have to. But then it just doesn't, yeah, it doesn't work. There's no momentum, there's no accountability. It just doesn't move forward. Um, what do you usually do with your clients when that happens?
Well, if we're in a session, we would work through like what is it that's going on for you personally? What kind of beliefs are running that are like the negative disempowered programming that are keeping them from really believing in their intention? Or, and also too, I find if they're having trouble with their intention, then they are having trouble in everything else. Like they're struggling with their self-worth at work, they're troubling with intuitive decision making, like all of these things are coming to play. And so if they are expressing that they're struggling with their intention, we're going to go in deeper to say, okay, what is it that's really the cause for them to not believe it, to not be able to sustain it? And it's not like we're not robots, like you said. It's not like every single day we are perfect in our intention, but it's there to remind us of a baseline that we want to be at. And that's how I think of it. Like, can this be my baseline and can I hold it throughout the week? And then at the end of the week, my coaches often and my teachers will ask, like, what was your intention? And that reminds me, like, what was it that I was trying to do this week? And that's really helpful for me to have that accountability and the reminder of, like, oh, yeah, like, what was my intention? Did I sustain that? How was that? And I feel like right now, we're in the new year. And there's so many people like at December, they had no idea what they set for January. Like, what was it? And like for me, I actually have like a bunch of post-its in my office, which for me, like I have themes and words that also help keep me in like that higher energetic level so that I can remember what it is I set out to do, which I think is really important when setting an intention.
It's like we keep realigning. And
Mhm.
that's what we do as coaches. We just are like the little nudge that goes, hey, remember what your inner nudge is. Come back to that.
Exactly.
So at the intention setting mini retreat, you will share with the participants the number one block to elevated self-worth. Without the guilt in your career, is there something you want to share about what they can look forward to during your time at the retreat?
I always I love the opportunity to go deeper. So thank you so much, Claudia-Sam, for creating this space for us to really dig in. Because what I find for so many people is that there's stubborn blocks that really keep us from getting the things that we want in our life. And when we are stuck in those blocks, we actually can't see them. And that's to me both like that's the most fun when you can start to have somebody else enlighten you on what it is. So you're going to get to uncover something that you haven't seen before. And when you haven't seen it before, it's kind of like, it's cool. You're like, oh, wow, I had no idea. And then when we have no idea and it shows up and you can see it, that's actually how you start to clear it. So you're going to get to move something out of the way that you've never moved before because you've never seen it before.
It's like hiking up a mountain every day with the clouds, and you never see the view until they disperse, and you are like, wowed.
That is exactly, yes, that's exactly what it's like. And sometimes I always think of hiking to like the fall summits. You think you're almost there, but then you actually get there and it's so cool. Like that's what it is. I mean, I literally feel like that's what it's like when you clear out a block. Like Claudia-Sam and I talk all the time and we'll like help each other see through blocks. And you're like, how have I never seen that before? But like, it's just being human, it's life, and that's why I think it's so cool to have an event like this where it's dedicated to helping you start to recognize those blocks. And then you're like, oh, wow, like it's really easy to move forward once you see them.
I'm so excited for this event. This is like the best version of it I've ever done so far. So it's going to be so fun. And while you're listening or watching the Be Happy Now show, if you want more of Nicole and if you want to take the quiz that she has about tuning into your intuitive voice, or can you tell us about the quiz you have for us?
Yeah. So if you are curious to find out some of your blind spots in advance, I have a quiz that's around uncovering your biggest intuitive blind spots. So if you're like, what is this thing that I don't even know about? Go take the quiz. It's NicoleTsong.com/intuition. And when you go there, you actually get to start that process of what those blocks are. And you'll get a little insight into what we'll do during the intention mini setting course as well, or the event.
Yay. Oh my gosh. I think I'm going to go take the quiz too. Because there's always these things we don't know. Like there's always
Totally.
something new we get to see every day.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to our time together and our continued conversations.
I can't wait.
Ooh. And our next guest on the Be Happy Now show is my friend Allison Orlovsky. Hi, Allison.
Hello, Claudia-Sam. How are you?
I am so excited to continue the conversation we were just having before I hit record. And I do want to introduce you. So I'll do that right now. So Allison and I actually met in person in Savannah last year in 2022. Oh, so it's already more
Yeah.
than last year now. And Allison and I were both coaches in the same container within Rise Leadership Circle. And Allison is this relationship architect. And I'm so excited that she is one of the manifestation mentors and main speakers at the intention setting mini retreat this month, because Allison has a powerful story that she learned from. And so to introduce her, Allison is a relationship and intimacy coach who works with both men and women to help them move their relationship from good to great, to help them reignite, reconnect, reinvent their relationship. She experienced 2 divorces before she was 35. And so she dedicated 13 and more years to learning what it takes to create a relationship she loves and a life that she loves, and has been sharing her wisdom and coaching for the last 3 years. So she's really here on a mission to support both men and women in creating relationships full of unconditional love and support, and that fulfills her clients' own wants and needs and desires so that they can live a life that they love. And at the intention setting mini retreat, Allison will talk about creating a relationship you love, accessing the intrinsic power you hold within. And one of the key stories that Allison shared with me was that one of the relationship lessons she learned was that being your partner's best friend, or them being your best friend, was one of the turning points in her now more than 11 years, I think, relationship.
10.
You can tell us 10. So, Allison, welcome.
Thank you, Claudia-Sam. That was beautiful. And I'm just really happy to get to talk to you. And I'm so excited to be part of the workshop intention setting that we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just before I hit record, the conversation we were having is because I saw Allison's ring. That we had a ring conversation when we were in Savannah, and I had not seen that one. So can you tell us what just happened?
Yes. So in November, Austin, my partner, and I were in Napa, California. We were visiting his family for a couple of weeks, and Austin proposed. And part of the conversation was that I was completely shocked. And I was shocked for a couple of reasons. One is that, as Claudia-Sam mentioned, I was divorced twice by the time I was 35. And so being married in terms of the legal aspect of it was not high on my priority list. I wanted a committed relationship, and being, wanting all the commitment and the intimacy and the fun and all of that came with it, but not necessarily super interested in having that piece of paper. So Austin and I talked about it because it was important to him. And so last year we went ring shopping, and I'm like, I'm open. Like, at least I was open. But he's like, well, if you get a ring, I want you to have what you want. And so ultimately one afternoon we went, I looked at rings, what type of style, but ultimately we really hadn't talked about it since then. And we both work from home. And so look, I don't even know, it's kind of easy to keep tabs on each other when you both work from home. And so I was just shocked because I was like, I have no idea when he went to go do this. He designed it himself. So how, he was able to work with the jewelers and pull all of this off, including having the ring in his pocket for a couple hours without me noticing. But what was so beautiful was the visceral response, that when he got down on one knee, Like it was just tears and oh my gosh, yes. And I didn't question if this was the right decision for me. So that was a super powerful opportunity or experience, not opportunity, experience for me because I'm really learning how to tap into my body. So I know, Claudia-Sam, that that's something you are so good at, but it is something that I historically have struggled with. And so just honoring that response of my body to the point where I was like hugging him and kissing him, and he's like, "Do you want to look at the ring?" Like I totally was kind of forgot about the ring. So yeah, so that was a really beautiful experience, and I'm so excited for this next part of our
Wow.
relationship. Yeah.
It's so fun. And I think it merges beautifully in our conversation where I would love to know how you set intentions in your day to day and how that relates to the relationship revolution coaching business and clients who you support.
Yeah, the one thing that I learned a long time ago, and it probably started actually from relationships, and I probably integrated it more into my day-to-day life in terms of my business, my health. But what I realized from my past marriages is that I had not been intentional. We just went through the motions. We just kept responsibility, okay, who's got to get the kids where and what time is dinner and who's doing what, like the logistics took over. And so we just created this chasm between us because we weren't intentional. We didn't talk about where we were going and what we wanted out of our relationship. What were our goals? How were we even feeling on a big level and also on a day-to-day level? And so when I really started thinking about, okay, if I'm going to create this relationship that I want, kind of that whole thought of like, I need to be intentional about it. And then it like hit me and I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to be intentional about it. And when you create, because intention is clarity. And so when you create that clarity, then you can take action on it. And so, and the other part of intention is focusing on what you want. And when you have that, it just becomes easier to take action toward it. And so just thinking about, Austin and I check in once a week, at least between the two of us. But my intention in the morning is how do I want to be as a person? How do I want to show up as a mom, as a friend, as a business owner, and as a partner? And checking in like, who am I being? How am I handling myself? And where do I need support? So there's lots of aspects to the intention setting. And each day might look a little different. But ultimately it's just in the morning being like, who do I want to be and what do I want to create in my day, in my relationship, in my business, in my life.
Yeah. Thank you. I love that. And what's really cool is that also in the intention setting mini retreat, there'll be two portions to your presence. There will be the talk where you get to share the how to create the revolution in your relationship what Allison's talk is create a relationship you love, access the intrinsic power you hold within. And so that she will talk about that, and you will get to workshop with her to set intentions based on what she talked about. So you will get to apply it. Can you tell us a little bit about how great that is and what they can look forward to?
Yes. What's the exercise itself? Well, actually, let me back up. The power we hold, that's just that we give a lot of it away to circumstances within a relationship or how someone else is showing up or they're not giving me what I need. And when we check in with our communication, how are we communicating to them? And communication happens on three levels. The first is our words, which is the most obvious one. And then we talk about actions, right? Actions speak louder than words. But then the deepest level is our being and how we're showing up and creating space to have a different result when we show up differently, we create an energy and a space for our partner to show up differently. And so without going into too much right now, when we look at how can I show up differently and more powerfully, that I don't have to be a victim any longer to what this relationship has been. Because we often, when we don't have intention, we just get very like frustrated, resentful, lonely, disappointed, all of the things. And the more we do that, the more we breed that. And so it's being able to create this shift within ourselves to get a different result, right? Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So without expecting them to be different, part of this workshop we'll talk about how do you want to show up to get that different result? Because when we take our power back, we can create magic. And
Oh,
so, and I experienced that. So I speaking completely from firsthand experience, from a completely what the relationship that Austin and I have is completely different than anything I've had before. And it came from how I showed up. I spent a lot of time between my second marriage and Austin looking at myself and like, I was a common denominator. And it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I'm a great human being that didn't have any boundaries, that didn't have a voice, that was a people pleaser, that didn't know what she wanted, that didn't want to ask for it, but then was disappointed when she didn't get it. All of these things. So when we can shift some of that in ourselves and heal some of that, do some of that work, then we get to show up differently, and then we can get our needs met. Then we can create that joy and play and partnership in our relationship that we're all craving. But part of that process is getting intentional about what we want. And sometimes it can feel really overwhelming. So in the workshop, we're going to break it down into small chunks and some simple steps. And so we'll practice that in the workshop, but then you get to do this on a daily basis in your own life. Get clarity.
thank you so much.
Think about how you want it, the steps to do that, to make that happen.
Yeah, so it can be easy and you can actually do it in your day to day. And so these events are designed to give you the space, the time to focus and align your energy instead of putting it on the to-do list, but then it keeps being bumped to the next page.
Yes.
Tell us about the gift that you have for us. You have 5 mindset shifts that you're offering our listeners, correct?
Yes. One thing that I realized about relationships is not so much, as I alluded to earlier, it's not so much what we do. We make it a lot harder than they need to be. I'm not saying they're always a cakewalk, but we often overcomplicate them. And so with these mindset shifts, when we can adopt them, it gives us a different perspective and allows us to show up differently in our relationship, right? And one of those might be little things make big impact. And we can say, of course they do. But how are you integrating and implementing these little things into your relationship on a consistent basis? But when you can take that mindset shift and be like, oh, I don't have to plan a big date. I don't have to do something really big and grandiose to make my partner feel loved. When we can just be like, ooh, I can leave a little post-it note. I can make them a cup of coffee. Let's chunk it down to something that might take 30 seconds out of your day, but will have a big impact on your partner. And when you start to do those things for your partner and they start to feel loved, most likely in a healthy relationship, they will start to reciprocate in their own ways, right? But they'll start to do some of those things. They'll feel loved and be like, oh my gosh, that was so sweet. I want to do something for him or her too. And that's how it's
I'm
snowballed.
so excited. I'm excited because this is the kind of work that gives you results and that creates ripple effects within the relationship. When we start to turn the gaze within and we start to look at how we want to be loved and what mindsets we have or beliefs we have about being loved and about showing up in a collaborative partnership, then we start to see and feel the results within, and then the ripple effects happen and you don't even have to work hard for it. It was an energy shift that you did within. So this is getting really juicy. So if you want the 5 mindset shifts from Allison, go to relationshiprevolution.com and you'll find the instructions there to download the 5 mindset shifts for free. The link will also be in the show notes. Thank you, Allison, for being here. I'm so excited, and we'll talk soon.
You've been listening to the Be Happy Now show with me, Claudia-Sam. Flex your soul connection muscle and be your inner guide to fulfillment and purpose. You are worthy of being you and of connecting to what stops you from living the life you are meant to live. Access more soul connection coaching at claudiasamcoaching.com.